Right now, we bring to you former NFL Network host, fantasy football analyst, current Sūmer Sports host. It is Lindsay Rhodes. Good morning.
Woohoo!
Are there ever enough introductions, to go along with? He's very good at this.
I love it.
So
the energy was high.
There you
This
go.
is my first thing. No, this is not my first. I forgot. I did one in my room, a podcast at 6:30 a.m.
Nice.
I was like,
Congratulations.
my producer hates me. I was like, I'm like at 6:30. I'm a girl. I got to put on makeup to be on camera.
Sure.
Like, what are you talking about? Wake up when it's dark out. That's fine, Lindsay. That's good.
Yeah.
But this is lovely. Love this.
Well, in about an hour, we're going to have Big E on. And I
He's
know,
so great.
And I am going to try to replicate his wrestling intro.
I love it.
And I think I can do it. I just hope it doesn't beat him down because he's like, I've heard that like a million times.
No. First of all, here's what you need to know about Ettore.
Yes.
He is the nicest guy ever.
I could see
He
that.
likes talking about wrestling, or at least he has humored me into feeling like he likes talking about wrestling. Because when we were shooting our show, The Evaluation, which we'll talk about, I just sat him down at lunch one day. And I was like, so tell me all about this. And is that guy really hurt, or is he? And like all of the stuff, which is obviously some of the stuff he's not going to say here. But he actually like answered a lot of questions, and I am the person that's currently watching. Now we're talking about wrestling. Sorry, I actually am into
That's
this.
his place.
We're only going to
Okay.
talk
Very excited.
analytics with Big E. We'll talk wrestling with you now. We'll really make it work.
So I am new to being into wrestling in the
Okay.
last year and a half because I have an 11-year-old son who decided he was into it, and so I was like, we're going to do this together. And
Yeah.
so we would watch Raw and then watch, the big events and stuff like that. We watched the Rumble over the weekend.
I was going to ask you that. Who
I've
are
got
your
thoughts.
favorite wrestlers?
I'm a big fan of Seth. I think Seth Rollins is a guy who kind of checks all of the boxes. Like
Yeah.
when he cuts a promo. By the way, this is so funny to me
Listen
that
to
I'm
her
talking
wrestling
like this.
speak.
I know. When he cuts a promo, it's just so good, and it's different from the other guys. And then obviously the in-ring stuff is also very good. And I think that what they need is those kinds of believable dynamics of rivalry.
Yeah.
And he and CM Punk right now are kind of that story for me. And so him even missing from the Rumble because he's hurt, just felt like there was less juice.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's my favorite.
Are you more of a microphone work person or what they're doing in the ring? Which one?
I think it
stands
all
out to
goes
you?
together because I think, and this is actually what I was going to say coming off of the talking to E about it. Like I'm watching Unreal right now on Netflix.
Yes.
It's all the behind the scenes stuff about how they're coming up with the storylines, and they're admitting a lot of stuff that they have not admitted for a while in wrestling. That's been like, the dirty secret and stuff.
I like to see them argue in the writer's room. I dig that.
I think that the fakeness and the scripted parts and the storyline actually makes it cooler for me.
Yeah.
Because what they do in the ring is clearly athletic. Like, even if you're planning it ahead of time, like, it's mind-boggling. It's so hard, the things that they're doing. And then to kind of watch, like, them talk about where to take a story and how to create the story. And then as somebody on the outside that's trying to predict where the story's going, knowing that it is a story, I feel like there's an element of fun to that.
And then seeing them pull it off too, like how they are creative to add to it. I love that part.
Literally it's literally not choreography, but to a degree the choreography of having a fight, even if it's fake, quote unquote.
Right.
Like, how do you
It's a great
do
dance.
that?
Yeah.
How?
It's a great dance.
Like that in and of itself, that they can get on the same page to make it look real, is just mind-boggling to me. I think it's so rad.
The wrestling show of record, the K&C Masterpiece.
See, that's true. We're going to have plenty of wrestlers on throughout the week. Now, I know it deals with analytics and football intelligence, but for people who are not familiar with Sūmer Sports, what can you tell me about what you guys are doing?
So Sūmer, I think, is a company that is so unique right now, and like perfect for someone like me that is nerdy in the ways that I'm nerdy about football, because we have a fully fleshed out scouting staff.
That's like me.
That has, okay, so we can do this all day. We have a fully fleshed out scouting staff with former general managers and personnel directors and scouts. We've got Mike Mayock and John Idzik and Mike McCagnon and Phil Emery, and there are tons of names that you recognize that work on our scouting staff. And then we've got a full data arm. And then our leadership is kind of built everything under a tech umbrella. So they're building out products with people who have worked at some of the biggest tech names, in the business, and are so smart and so talented, and are coming to kind of put those two groups of people into conversation with each other to say, how do we solve football problems? Like, what is a stat? How could we better evaluate this position? Is there a stat we could create?
Okay. I'm so sorry to cut you off.
Please do.
We've been working on this for 3 years.
Yeah.
Can you guys please get us any further on reapportioning responsibility for interceptions? Because interceptions get tagged on quarterbacks. I don't know if it could be a half an interception. Okay, because we have been working on this for
Do you want to go picket outside? Should we make some billboards and stuff to
A little bit, yeah. Quarterback interceptions matter.
Totally.
Because I would love to see a stat where Jackson Smith and Jigba's having a great season. He's got 100 receptions, but also 2 interceptions. I would love something like that where they take a little bit of responsibility.
We also know that's the thing. So for so long, and I have this conversation about counting stats too. For so long, it absolutely made sense to talk about passing yards and rushing yards and things like that, because we just didn't have the technology or the wherewithal to evaluate outside of those things. We do now.
Yeah.
We know better on all of these interceptions. Now, the only problem that I think people would push back on us about the interceptions thing is that we don't know what route the wide receiver was supposed to run. We don't know if he just wasn't in the right place. Did the quarterback, we don't know the answer to that. And so that's what makes it hard. But all of the other things, where someone is creating separation. We can see it. We have something called Sūmer Sight where we can evaluate on an all-22 tape every movement from every player for every frame of every play for all season.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And then we're filtering that up into a bunch of different data points, and in some cases deciding, like we talked about the scouts and the data people being in conversation and creating data points that track how they do in certain traits that they're looking at. Maybe this guy's very good at this, but he's not good at this, And so I think there is a lot of information that we do know and that we can use to better evaluate some of these plays rather than the traditional. Also, in terms of interceptions at cornerback. Cornerback's a tough one because, honestly, you've got, not this year, last year, I feel 2024 season, Pat Surtain and Derek Stingley were the perfect examples of 2 cornerbacks who were very good in very different ways, and the stats told totally different stories. So in Surtain's case, he just is never targeted, which is the story.
Yes.
That quarterbacks are dropping back, surveying the defense, and going, not there, right? Which is because he's crushing.
Yeah.
So his guy's locked up. Stingley was targeted a ton, but had a low catch rate and a low yards allowed. And so you're looking for different stats. Totally different stats told the story of those 2 guys being the best cornerbacks.
Are there any stat evolutions or new things that y'all have come up with that you're this is my favorite? This is what I think gives a better perspective of what's really happening.
There are, those are coming up all the time, and they're different for every position, to be honest.
For sure.
I would say the big umbrella stat that is my, when we go pick it outside about interceptions, I will also say, please start talking about EPA. EPA is the umbrella stat that drives me crazy that the broadcasters will not use it. Because, and I understand this, they say no one knows what it means. And I get that. And it is complicated to explain. But I also feel I want to go, can you tell me how they determine passer rating?
No, I can't.
Nobody can.
No.
Nobody can. Algorithm, what's the mathematical equation? What does it include and what does it not include? Nobody knows, but everybody knows that 150, they might not know 158.3 is the perfect one, which, by the way, what a weird number.
Yeah, how's it not 150?
It's not 100 to 0. No, it's 158.3.
Yeah.
But we've all accepted that, and you just sort of know, if somebody has a 90 passer rating, they had a pretty good game. If they had a 130 passer rating, they crushed. If they have a 60 passer rating, that was a bad game for them. These are things that we've all just agreed to understand without actually asking the questions about how it's made. So if everyone who works in the data space is saying the best storytelling stat in terms of whether your offense is good or your defense is good, and I think it can also be applied to quarterbacks because they are sort of responsible for all aspects of the offense, doesn't work for individual positions so much, but the best way to tell you whether your team is good is to look at your EPA per play.
I talk about the Dodgers are a great example of their scouting department. They said, we're going to take a scout and we're going to take an analytics guy. We're going to send them out on the road together.
So smart.
And look at how how they've developed, and then they're like, yeah, we can also spend all the money too.
There is that.
Like
right.
Marrying the human element to the data, that's where those are the coaches that are going to survive and excel the most, are the ones that can say, I'm not going to just ignore that information. I'm going to use it. I don't have to live by it, but I can use that, and I can use the human element to know what my team is.
We have a draft show coming out. The Thursday after Super Bowl, we put together a TV show, which of course makes sense for a data company. But I'm so glad that they did, because it's my kind of draft show. As a consumer, even though I'm a part of it, I'm also a fan, and I look for information. I always want to hear, like, how can I get better at identifying who is good, who's not good, all this stuff. And so we put together a draft show with all of these voices in a conversation.
Yeah.
So the scouts do their evaluations of this year's class, and then the data says, here's how we see it from a data standpoint. And then we have a roundtable conversation where we talk about the like how to put the two of them together, and how do you, like, kind of front office type conversations that are probably having right now about positional value and opportunity cost, and can you take a running back early, and then just like talk through these different things. And I think it's a very smart show, and I'm really excited. But why I bring this up now, other than desperately wanting you all to watch it on February 12th, the Thursday after the Super Bowl, go to SūmerSports.com for links, is that Mike Mayock was on the panel, and he struck me so specifically, because he's been around for a long time. He's more of an old school kind of guy. He's a little bit gruff in his approach. The number of times that he acknowledged that working for Sūmer for the last 2 years has changed the way that he would operate as a general manager now, if he was a general manager now. And he specifically name checks things that he looks at differently now, like his openness. And I think people think like, oh, the older guys or people who have been around for a long time or have a lot of experience are going to be a lot more protective of like doing it my way.
We have 2 sandboxes, and they don't ever merge.
And he says in the show several times, this has changed my mind about this. This is what I would tell a general manager to do now. And I think that stuff is fascinating. Just watching the evolution. We are definitely at an inflection period in football. There's an old school and there's a new school, and I think we're clearly going more towards the new school stuff is being implemented, and we just need to start kind of having those conversations to bridge those gaps, so that the young general managers who are utilizing analytics but also doing other things. I mean, no one is using analytics. No one. No coach, no front office is just going, well, the numbers say.
Right.
No one's doing that. So the whole conversation about like nerds are ruining the game, like nerds are just providing them information that they didn't have before, and they're using that to form their new opinions about situations with different information.
Kevin, remember the Titans is a great example. I went to the math teacher and I got some trends. And these trends are going to help us in this game.
So I keep thinking about yesterday. So we were talking about, we're the home of the Cowboys and the Rangers. And so we were talking about baseball, and we almost like kind of blew past WRC Plus, and Corey stopped it and was like, we should really explain that to people, because that, I feel like, is the catch-all tool for baseball that really dive into. And he was like, let's take some time.
What does that stand for?
And so essentially it is wins above replacement plus, because it factors in the ballpark, and it factors in the weather, and so essentially it gives you a percentage per regular player. And so like, hey, I'm a 104, you're 4% better than the regular player. And so we got a chance to like really go in depth, because I almost kind of skipped past it, and I was like, I don't know if people care. And Corey's like, well, they need to care.
Yes, I agree with that.
This is really important. So
and the more that you can explain why things are important, I think will help us get there faster towards people actually looking at the right things. Like I talk about the counting stats, and just like, if this is my, this is the thing that I want to accomplish, is to get people off of the counting stats and into more efficiency-based stats. And the example that I use, and I feel like I'm always picking on him because he's always the example that I use, is Aaron Rodgers with the Jets last year. He was 8th in passing yards, but you're like, okay, but let's not even get into analytics. Why do teams throw the ball a lot? If you're doing a fantasy football, if you're trying to project, you're trying to project the script. Well, the script for the Jets was, we're behind all the time, and so we're throwing. Well, why are we behind all the time? because it's not working. Who is responsible in part for it not working? The quarterback,
True.
right? Like, so you're like, I don't even understand how we get to a point where we're like, but look at this number. It is high. Dalvin Cook rushing yards back when the Vikings moved off of him and people were surprised and they were like, but he had 1,000 yards rushing. And the people who were looking at the efficiency stats knew that that's only because he was still their feature back and they had to keep feeding him, but he was so inefficient, and inefficient in a way that showed difference from the years before. So you're looking for whether or not, like, are we always here on this plane at this number and now all of a sudden we're down here? That's usually a sign that either the player is injured or they have found their cliff, right? And you're always looking for the age cliff. That information is baked into some of these numbers, so we have to be willing to go look for it so that your team doesn't pay somebody a ton of money who is about to not be able to produce for you.
There you go.
That's why people need to tune in. Tell them how they can find all of your content, and then once again, when's the draft show? Yeah,
the draft show, February 12th. It's the Thursday after the Super Bowl. There will be one episode every week on Thursdays, and we'll do a position a week. So it'll be quarterbacks first, and then you'll find like a different position every week. And by the way, we have some really special guests in addition to the scouts and the data and me and Big E, who you're going to talk about analytics with, obviously. We also have a guest that is like somebody who was a very good player at that position for a long time. So Eli Manning will be our guest for the first show. We have Marshall Faulk for the running backs. Like, people were very kind with their time with us, and so we're really excited about that. You can go to SūmerSports.com and find links to everything that we're doing right now, including, if I may real quickly plug, we have a live data dashboard that we launched at the beginning of the postseason that you can go look at now for all of the games that have already happened in the postseason. It will blow your mind, I guarantee you, and it will update live on Super Bowl Sunday. It's like a play-by-play feed, except as soon as the play happens, although secret, it's going to pop up before the play happens on TV. I know, spoiler alert, you might not like that, but from a data standpoint, it's wild how fast all of this information is going from charting to on your screen and turning into a metric. It will tell you if they were on that play. It'll go like Sam Darnold to Jackson Smith and Jigba for 12 yards. And then it'll also say 12 personnel, heavy box, man, cover 3, there was motion. Like, all of that will be in the play-by-play thing, and then it'll also populate stuff so that you can see how frequently have they used 12 personnel versus any of the other personnel rates. You'll be able to track it by quarter. You'll be able to see what coverages they're using. You'll be able to see what gaps the running backs are hitting and how efficiently they're hitting each gap. The amount of data that is on this, it is my favorite thing that we've ever built out, because I need it for stories, for content, as a fan. So it's free, SūmerSports.com. You'll find a link to Sūmer Live there.
Lindsay, thank you so much for jumping on with us. This was outstanding.
Thank you so much for having me.